Welcome to Global Insights channel, and today we are hosting Dov Hiking, who is a political activist, American politician from New York area. For many years, have been in the Assembly of New York, and helping me, Chaim Ben Pesach, our friend, a friend of mine, and generally, I'm trying as kind of someone who is never lived in the United States, and I have been. I was born in Soviet Union, and I'm living now for many years in Israel. And I had kind of presumption about United States in my head. It's a country believes in freedom, supports freedom. And in fact, I felt that when I was in Soviet Union, yeah, we all could hear the voice of America explaining about the democracy, freedom of speech, and all these values which I can be associated with, and I think I'm kind of American in my way of view on the things. And currently, I see very strange things, which is in fact going on in the United States, especially in the Democratic Party, which I personally respect as one of the major American parties. And Dov, maybe could you explain why it's not that simple as I suppose it to be? Democracy, freedom, United States stands for these values. What's wrong with that?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And just want you to know that you're from the former USSR. And I spent many, many years as a young person fighting for Soviet Jewry, getting arrested in the streets of New York. Pesach is very familiar with all of that. Those were wonderful days fighting for people to open the doors of the Soviet Union. I remember those days. Day and night, we worked to open those doors. But look, countries, this is nothing new. Things can be wonderful. We've had golden ages of Portugal, of France, of England, where Jews, everything was wonderful. Jews had rights, Jews had freedoms, Jews were successful, and it was very nice. But then things changed, and sometimes they changed in a very dramatic way, where the end result was the most horrible example of that, of course, is the Holocaust. Jews lived very comfortably in Germany, Austria, other places in Europe. Yes, there was anti-Semitism. There has always been, there will always be anti-Semitism, Jew hatred. People who don't know why they hate Jews, but they hate Jews, period. But there's a difference between when that hatred reaches the point where the Jewish community is in danger, where the Jewish community has no future, possibly. And even to the point of, and I give you one example, just one of so many, on my phone, a stranger, I know who she was. She said she was elderly, an older woman. She said to me, how will we know when it's time to leave America? She was so concerned with going on in America. And by the way, this was before October 7th. Since October 7th, forget it. It's a whole different world. But even before, for 4 years before, the incidents of anti-Semitism, of Jew hatred, of Jews being afraid to walk the streets, of Jews taking off their yarmulke, of Jews taking off their Magen David, their Star of David, etc., etc. Things were horrible, terrible universities before October 7th. And this woman asked me, who is going to let us know? Bells ringing, time to go, who's going to tell us? My heart, I felt so bad for her. I told her, don't worry, it's going to be okay. But that was before October 7th. Since October 7th, it's a whole different story. Things are totally out of control. I think the whole world is watching what's going on. You know, anti-Semites used to always, they used to say, we're not anti-Semites. We just hate Israel. We're just anti-Zionist, et cetera, et cetera. But now what you see in the streets of America, in the streets of France, in the streets of England and Belgium, et cetera, is something totally new. It is outright hatred for the Jewish people. If you wear a Star of David and you pass by these animals, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter if you're a Shalom Achshav, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are a Jew to them, and you deserve to be targeted, to be attacked, to be called a dirty Jew, to be told that Hitler didn't finish the job, on and on and on. So we have a whole new phenomenon. You see it every day in America now, in thousands, not hundreds, thousands, out in the streets, marching, destroying property, disrupting airports all over America, on and on, attacking Jews, physically attacking Jews. Jews, unfortunately, are afraid. I wish they weren't. I wish they were strong. I wish they were tougher, but Jews are afraid. So when the people now talk, 5 years ago, if I would have said, is there a future for Jews in America? People would have said, look, we always have problems, but it's going to be okay. I'm not so sure it's going to be okay. I'm not so sure it's going to be okay.
Dov, do you understand why it is happening? What's wrong with the American society?
It's very, very complicated. Jew hatred, it's not like intellectually that those who hate Jews, that if you have a conversation with them, they are ignorant. They don't know the facts of history. They don't know, and they don't care, and they don't want to be bothered. They are for the underdog. You know what I mean? Underdog. You see, up until 1967, Israel was the David in the Goliath story. Before 1967, Israel had tremendous support in America. They are surrounded by enemies. But in 1967, Israel did something that upset a lot of people. See, a lot of people in the world, they don't mind dead Jews. That's not a problem. In fact, when Jews get murdered, they will cry. The New York Times will do editorials. Everybody will say, oh, you never, terrible, horrible. But in 1967, Israel won an unbelievable victory. And I remember those days quite well. I remember the Jewish community in May of 1967. I remember, as I speak to you, Syria, their armies getting ready to push the Jewish people into the sea. They were very clear. It was about destroying the state of Israel. I remember the fear of Jews in America. What's going to be? What's going to be? The straits of Tehran were closed. No, on behalf of Israel. Israel was surrounded by countries that said, I remember that morning of June 6th, Monday morning in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, when we heard the news was that the Egyptians had bombed Israeli airfields. I'll never forget. And Israel had a great victory. And that was the beginning of the hate towards Israel. Because Israel, because they won, because they were successful, they now became the evil people, the evil country.
Dov, first of all, welcome, Dov. It's good to see you. Israel, of course, still is David versus Goliath in reality, very much so. You have 7 million Israeli Jews. The Muslim world, there are 2 billion Muslims in the world. They're 25% of the world's population. There are 57 Muslim countries in the world and one tiny Jewish state. The problem is that the Jews recognize something called a Palestinian people. And when they recognize a Palestinian people, the conflict was no longer between Jews and the broader Muslim and Arab world. It became a conflict between Jews, Israelis, and Palestinians. And there, Israel looks like Goliath. So that was a tremendous, I think it was a tremendous mistake. Do you agree with that? To recognize a Palestinian people?
Well, you know, whether it was or not, and I totally understand what you're saying, and but you know, we're way past that now. Things could have been done differently, and things may have been very, very different. But unfortunately, that was not done, and we are now faced with a situation, you know, critical situation. I've had I thank God that I've had the opportunity since October 7th. A lot of people were trying to leave Israel on October 8th and 9th, people who were there for the holidays. I actually booked a ticket to go to Israel and got there 2 days afterwards and went to the south and saw Kfar Aza and Sderot and other places in the south and saw what happened and was told, went from house to house and the horrors that were committed against the Jewish people. We are in a different situation today. We're in a very precarious situation on so many different levels. I have to tell you, very, very concerning. You know, the world. I don't. You know, nothing shocking to me. The world, literally, almost without exception, Israel is wrong. Israel should make concessions. On and on. The fact that anyone today can talk about a state solution with a straight face and do, especially the United States and the European, I mean, just shows you how they're not living with reality. I mean, even the people of Israel, even the people on the left, you know, the talk of 2 states is something that is just absolutely impossible. When I was in Israel after October 7th, and I met some of the survivors from Be'eri and other places in the south, I think everybody knows that the people who were living in these areas, they were the Shalom Achshav people. They were the peaceniks. They were the ones who cared about their Palestinian brothers and sisters. They would bring them to Israeli hospitals. They cared so deeply. And we all know the reality of what happened. You know, whether you were Likud, whether you were part of Smotrich or that one, that's something that people have to recognize, that our enemies really don't care. They really don't care. They wanted about the Jewish people, all the Jewish people. So, you know, these are very difficult times. We have enemies outside of Israel. We have our enemies. Again, nothing new historically. Some of the most dangerous are Jews in America, in Israel, who are undermining the well-being of the people of Israel, the state of Israel, the well-being of the Jewish people. I mean, nothing new. It's a very sad state of affairs in terms of what's going on and what the future will be. You know, I agree with you a long, long time ago. By the way, you know, I know you know the history quite well. The other side, they had every opportunity to have their state on so many different occasions, even back in 1947, right? I mean, there, you know, the offer from the UN was a Jewish and Arab state. We know that. Whether that should have been on the table or not is irrelevant, but Ben-Gurion accepted that, and the Arabs and all the nations around Israel invaded Israel for the purpose of destroying the Jewish state. So this is really, until you realize there's no partner, there's no one to talk to, talking about sanctions, talking about a two-state solution is dangerous for the Jewish people.
I think we should move on to the presidential election, but before we do, I just want to say, by the way, that when I was a kid, I'm 68 years old. When I was a kid, the Arabs said, "Don't call us Palestinians, we're Arabs." The Arabs said there's no such thing as a Palestinian people. So this whole thing is a hoax. But
by the way, not only that, just remember, between 1948 and 1967, right? The Jordanians controlled Samaria and controlled Jerusalem, where Jews could not go to the Kotel. They had it for 17 years.
19 years.
Right? 19 years, exactly. 19 years. By the way, that was their opportunity to do something if they really cared. No one ever talked about let's have a Palestinian state. We have Judea and Samaria. There was no such discussion. But I don't want to confuse anybody with the facts of history. Our enemies don't want to be confused.
Let me ask you about the presidential election. First of all, let me just give you a little bit more of an introduction to our viewers, because you are a very important political figure certainly in New York politics. In the U.S. Senate race between Al D'Amato and Bob Abrams, D'Amato won by 1%. Very, very close election. You endorsed D'Amato. You were a Democrat, but at that time you were a Democrat. You endorsed the Republican D'Amato, and many people believe that because of your endorsement, D'Amato won. In the race for mayor of New York, very similar situation. Rudy Giuliani against David Dinkins. Giuliani narrowly won. You, a Democrat, endorsed the Republican Giuliani, and the Republican Giuliani narrowly won. And many people again believe that you were responsible for Giuliani winning the race for mayor of New York. In the race for governor of New York, George Pataki versus Mario Cuomo, same situation. Pataki narrowly wins. You endorsed him. It made a big difference. So you're a very influential voice in the Jewish community. And when you endorse people, your endorsements are eagerly sought after. And when you endorse people, very often it does move a lot of Jewish votes, and it can make a difference. The polls show that this is going to be a very close race between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris in the battleground states. That's where it's really going to be decided. And they're virtually in a tie in the polls. And the Jewish votes in those states can be critical. So what you're going to do now, people who are interested in who's going to win the presidency, our guest is someone who can very much influence that election by his actions, that the past has proven that. You were a Democrat for many years. You've switched to the Republican Party. You represented the Borough Park section of Brooklyn, probably the most Jewish area outside of Israel in the world, in terms percentage-wise and proportionally speaking. And you did that as a Democrat. Now you've switched to the Republican Party. Can you explain to us why you switched to the Republican Party and what your position is on the presidential election this year?
Yeah, look, one of the things I've always said, and I continue to say, I'm never was truly a Democrat, and I'm not truly a Republican. I am truly, I hope, a Jew who cares about our people and will try to do what I think is best for America and for the Jewish people. It's one and the same, by the way. So, as a Democrat, I did something that is probably the worst sin that you can commit, and that is to be a Democrat and to endorse Republicans. And I paid a price for that, but that was okay. Now, the reason I actually switched, and I still would support a Democrat where I felt that was the best choice. But the reason I switched is because the Democratic Party has become, diseased. There's a disease. Now, it doesn't mean that every Democrat is evil and terrible and every Republican is God's gift to the world. But there is no question, if you are honest, if you are sincere, there is no question that Republicans, being the Republican senators, Republican members of the House, and Donald Trump in particular, There is no that they get it, that they understand. When you watch them on television in America, and it's all over the world, when you see non-Jewish senators, they defend Israel, it is amazing. It is extraordinary. There is no question that the Republican Party as a whole and its representatives are the best friends that Israel has in the world, period. And the Democrat is diseased with anti-Semitism. There's a disease. Specialists to deal with the disease. They need antibiotics. They need all kinds of things because it really situation. That doesn't mean that all Democrats are Tlaib and Omar and some of the others. But you know what? You have those that are outright evil, okay? And Harris, who's running for president, is dangerous to the well-being of Israel, incredibly dangerous. I mean, if you just recently when Netanyahu spoke to the United States Congress, right? She decided not to be there. Okay, she wasn't there. Okay, chutzpah, audacity. But the moment that really defines who she is when she met Netanyahu along with Biden. If you remember that moment, if you have that picture, if you have that 3 seconds of video clip, when she saw Netanyahu and she shook hands, her face told the story as to how she felt. It was like she was at a funeral. It was mind. If you think Biden is a disaster for Israel, which he is, okay, Harris is really a catastrophe without any question. And part of my message to a lot of people, because there are people who have a problem with Trump. They like his policies, like the things he did. I mean, he was the best president in terms of Israel ever. And no one is number 2 or 3. I mean, he was just the best. That is just a fact. But, there are things about Trump that people don't like, it more his personality, et cetera, things he says. And I understand that. I don't like it either. I don't care. But you know what? There is no choice. If you are a moderate Republican, if you're not sure, you like the policies of the Republicans, but you don't like Trump so much, I am begging and pleading with you that you support Donald Trump. With all the pimples and with all the issues you have, I respect it. Okay, I got the same, but there is no choice. And it's not that he is the Mashiach, that he's the Messiah. Oh, Trump, all of our problems are solved. No. But there is such clear choice between Harris and Trump. It's so black and white. It's really so black and white. Harris is dangerous, and Donald Trump is a great friend.
Dov,
Yes.
in case the Harris is elected as a president, do you see possibilities that in the foreseeable future, United States will cease its support to Israel? I mean, politically wise and military wise.
And the Democrats win the House of Representatives, for instance, okay? Just remember, if the Democrats win the House, Tlaib, there are many of them. They will be the heads of important committees of the United States Congress. And the same thing goes for the Senate. It's very, very close. So to answer your question, the answer is yes. That the United States, not overnight, but slowly but will apply the Israel that we have never, ever seen before. If Harris wins, if they win the House, if they win the Senate, then I think you will have a dramatic increase in Aliyah, which may be.
Well, I mean, if there's an increase in Aliyah, Dov, I think we would agree that that would be good. That actually would be good. But Harris has said repeatedly that her goal is creating an independent Palestinian terrorist state in Judea, Samaria, Gaza, and Jerusalem. Israel would be only 6 to 9 miles wide if a Palestinian state came into being. It would be national suicide. Even the left used to say that creating a state would be suicide.
Yeah.
And she's made it clear she intends to apply massive pressure on Israel in order to achieve that goal. She's made that very clear.
Yeah, it's not just Harris, it's the Democratic Party. It's members of the Senate, Democrats. It makes no sense of Israel get it, they understand. And I'm talking about the left in Israel, the political right. But the as well, this is what they talk about. This is part of their entire thing. We must give the Palestinians a state. Who? With who? What Palestinians? Mahmoud Abbas? I mean, a Palestinian authority, Palestinian authority where kids who go to school, third grade, fifth grade, are taught to hate you and me because we are Jews. That's who you want to give a state to? I mean, are we nuts? It's crazy. It is. You know, the election is in 60 days away, and we shouldn't fool ourselves. Anything can happen. You know, Trump could win, and Harris could win. Oh, both of those are a possibility. So people need my efforts in Pennsylvania and some other places that are really, the election is going to be determined by 7 states. In all the states, in 4 states, it's done. We know where Harris is going to win. We know where Trump is going to win. It all comes down to a couple of states, and those states have a fair amount of Jews who can really close. You're talking thousands of votes that can make the difference. So again, I don't become a Republican. You must become a Republican. I don't care. Okay? I made that decision based on become, unfortunately. But it doesn't matter. Vote Republican 24. Stay a Democrat, fine. But you must vote Republican for the future. By the way, it's not just about Israel. It's the future of the United States of America. What's going on in borders? I mean, it's insane. Americans are dying as a result of open borders, and the people that are coming in, and we'll get the concerned about the poor criminal. This is who they have Rahmanis for. The criminal, not the victim. Not the perpetrator is what they care about. We can't be too tough with the perpetrator. So it's a horrible, horrible situation what's going on so many different levels. So I don't think there's ever been a more important election, and I've never this before, never, than this election in 2024 between Trump and Harris is an absolute disaster for the American people. And for those of us who care about the well-being of Israel, very, very dangerous. No question about it.
Let me ask you about something practical that the Harris-Biden administration is already doing to create a Palestinian state, because they're already doing something. They're slapping sanctions on Israeli citizens, especially the Hilltop youth in Judea and Samaria. The White House and the State Department have said that they are an obstacle to creating a Palestinian state, which they are. I mean, they build, thank God, they build settlements in Judea and Samaria, which are preventing Arab territorial continuity there. And so sanctions are being placed on them. They can't use their credit cards. They can't, because Israeli credit card companies are cooperating with the sanctions. They can't use their banks because the Israeli banks are cooperating with the sanctions. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu and Israeli leaders have condemned the sanctions, have said the sanctions are bad. They should not be imposing sanctions on Israeli citizens. A foreign government coming and doing this, that it's bad. But the practical effect of these sanctions can be very harmful to the hilltop youth communities in Judea and Samaria, and that can eventually lead to the creation of a Palestinian state. Do you see this as an example of the type of dangers we're facing that can lead to very serious threats for Israel, for Israel's future?
There's no question about it. I mean, look what the Harris-Biden administration is doing right now on many different levels. Holding up arms shipments to Israel. What's that all about? Criticizing Israel. Just a day or two ago, Biden saying, when he was asked the question, is Netanyahu doing enough? He said no. And that was outrageous. It was ridiculous. It was preposterous. What's going on with the hilltop youth and people in Judea and Samaria? It's about Michigan. It's about Minnesota. The radical vote in the United States of America. And if you have to undermine Israel, be it the hilltop youth, or be it the government of Israel, or be it the people of Israel, that's exactly what has been going on now for months. And there's only one solution. Only one solution. We can yell and scream. And as you pointed out, the government of Israel has been critical of the, I mean, they're going after people in Judea and Samaria. They don't even know what the hell, they don't even know the facts. They're just going after people, innocent people, and hurting their lives and hurting their families, for God's sake. But again, it's all to make Tlaib and Omar and AOC and the rest of the radicals in the Democratic Party get pretty quiet lately. Ever since Harris became the candidate, they're pretty darn quiet. I wonder why.
Let me ask you about Kamala Harris's. Some people say, well, she can't be anti-Semitic. Her husband's Jewish, and her husband, Doug Emhoff. But Doug Emhoff's daughter, Kamala Harris's daughter-in-law, has raised over $8 million for a Gaza fund that the Israeli government identifies as a Hamas front group. That's her daughter-in-law, whom Kamala Harris says she's very proud of what her daughter-in-law does. Her daughter-in-law has also been doing fundraising in support of the anti-Semitic demonstrators on college campuses and agrees with them. Is this an indication of a candidate who appears to be so hostile to Israel and the Jewish people? It's incredible that anybody would even have a question about what the Jewish interest is in this election.
Look, we know our history, and the fact that Harris's husband is Jewish is of no consequence, and maybe even more dangerous. You just pointed out where the daughter is, but I'm just looking at something. Harris Arab Outreach Director, her outreach director to the said that Zionism United States politics.
That Zionism is what we got. It didn't come out clearly, though. What did you say? Zionism? I'm sorry.
This is her Arab director. Her name is Brenda Adatal. Actually said Zionist. This is Harris's outreach director to the Muslim community in America. He has said.
Could you repeat again, because we are not hearing you clearly?
Yeah, the outreach director of Harris in America has said control United States politics.
Zionists control U.S. politics.
U.S. policy.
US politics. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, she's not president yet, and she's appointed, and there are many others who clearly have a problem with the democracy that Israel is. Make no mistake. I mean, her husband has been in charge of fighting anti-Semitism, right? That's part of his position. He's in charge. He's been out there. than ever because talk is cheap and there is no real action to deal with the hate that exists in America against the Jewish people. So listen, it's all about November now. It's all about November. No one is perfect. No one is perfect. But the dichotomy between Harris and Trump on Israel, crystal clear. So 100% certain you have no choice but to vote for Donald Trump.
By the way, another interesting thing, Joe Biden at the Democrat convention, when he gave his speech, said that the anti-Israel demonstrators have a point, he said in his speech. And Kamala Harris has praised them. There's been a lot of praise for them, for the demonstrators who burn Israeli flags, burn American flags, and who chant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. You're the head of an organization called Americans Against Anti-Semitism. When people chant from this river to the sea, Palestine will be free, which is calling for the annihilation of Israel, is that anti-Semitism?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that. But again, it's all about politics. Trust me. It's not about principle. It's not about free speech that Biden and Harris, they want to protect your speech. Just imagine for one moment, we know the rate of Jew hatred in America today is at numbers that we've never seen ever, not even close, okay? Just imagine if some of that hate was directed against people in the Black community or the LGBT community. Just imagine. Just imagine. Do you think they would act and deal with the problem? The universities in America, those who were arrested for destroying property, for terrifying Jewish students, creating fear, violating people's rights. No consequences. They can continue doing whatever they're doing because absolutely, Chaim, is going to happen to them. And that's the reality of the Democratic Party today, period.
Maybe we can make a little news on this video as well. There are rumors that you may run for office again.
Look, I'm getting older. I still have the energy. I'm still out there. I even got arrested recently, as you know, at Amnesty International. All I can tell you is we are losing the battle in America of our enemies. Our enemies are out in the streets all the time, day and night. And don't tell me Soros is funding them. I don't give a darn who's funding them. Where are the Jewish people? Why aren't we out there? We're capable. We know how to do things. We need to be tougher. We need to be stronger. And unfortunately, we're not. We're not. And that's very sad. And as far as public, I mean, truly, so many of them are missing in action. They really are. They're missing in action. I don't see them. I don't know where they are. I don't want to start mentioning names, but I'm talking about even on a local level in New York, except for someone by the name of Ina Vernikoff in New York, who's a Republican member of the city council. There are council members, there are state senate members, assembly members, Jews, religious Jews. I don't know where they are. They probably are on vacation the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think that's obvious, Dov. I think that's obvious. And one thing about you, whatever anybody wants to say, if they support you, don't support you, agree with you, don't agree with you, you were not that type of politician. You took a stand when necessary, and sometimes unpopular stands. You were willing to take a stand and did so courageously. When the leaders of your own party, you in fact enraged sometimes the leaders of your own party with the stands you took. That certainly is part of your history.
Yeah. I have a question, Dov, maybe regarding the immigration to Israel. I remember when we came to Israel and almost 1 million people from former Soviet Union just, appeared in Israel in a few years. Israel was quite unprepared and amazed. Could we be again surprised by the big numbers of immigrants from the United States?
Look, I don't think it's going to happen like it happened from the USSR. Once the doors were opened in the USSR, they were closed. So once they were opened, everybody was, let's get out of here before they close again. I don't think it will happen in such a fashion, but I can tell you, based on, talking to people in different communities and young people and so on and so forth, they have beautiful homes. They live a good life. They can go to good restaurants. But I can tell you that they are concerned about the future. They are very concerned about the future, and people are, inquiries about Aliyah. There are some who, maybe more than ever, that actually will come to Israel. But, in due time, it will increase dramatically, I believe. But it's not going to be like those who came from the USSR. America is still, compared to what the USSR was, with all the problems, with all the difficulties, you see, unless they call you a dirty Jew, unless they smack you in the face and call you effing Jew, Hitler should have finished the job. It's different when you read about it, when you hear about it, and when you are actually a victim. When I was in Israel just now in the north, and we did a barbecue for 400 Israeli soldiers in Kiryat Shimona, at the base of Kiryat Shimona. Okay? Steaks. I was working. I didn't hear the red alert. And suddenly the soldiers grabbed me, and I heard boom, 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 boom. When that happens, you don't forget, and you understand what the people of Israel are living with every single day.
So maybe last question. What's your bet on these elections? Who will win? Who will take it?
Well, if I had money to bet, I would bet 5 cents on Trump.
good answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi.
Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to seeing you in Israel.
Dov, thank you. Thank you so much, Dov. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaim,
and by the way,
thanks for all the great stuff that you do. I mean,
thank you.
You are out there. I know you from way back, my JDL days, which were amazing days fighting for our people, and your involvement and your caring and your passion, it's never stopped. You haven't changed, and I say thank you to you.
Thank you. And by the way, Alex, just so that you'll know, Alex Zeitlin, and that our viewers will know, we probably have new viewers here. Alex Zeitlin is one of the biggest and most prominent podcasters in Israel now. He has millions of views on his hundreds and hundreds of videos. Very prominent.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Chai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.